question.
Taoiseach, I'd like to ask you your views on the detention of Palestinian children in apartheid Israeli jails.
Deputy, I'm glad you raised this question. The treatment of Palestinian minors under the Israeli occupation and military justice system has long been an issue of concern for us, which we've discussed here and which the government has raised with the Israeli authorities and at EU and international level, including statements by Ireland at the UN Human Rights Council. I've expressed these concerns myself directly to Israeli leaders during my recent visit to the region in January. Despite occasional improvements on specific details, worsening aspects have been accurately tracked in reports such as those by UNICEF recently, and indeed Israeli NGOs with whom we have contacts. For me, the bottom line is that Palestinian children are clearly subject to widespread treatment which Israel would correctly consider to be unacceptable for their own children. The case to which the Deputy refers is one which exhibits many issues that concern us. Firstly, the way in which protest against the occupation can be criminalised and suppressed. Secondly, the exertion of political pressure in Israel to press the military authorities to take heavy-handed and highly publicised action against a Palestinian family who pose, in our view, no genuine security threat whatsoever. And thirdly, the treatment of Palestinian minors and their families, to pressure them to accept plea bargains, which then supposedly justify the whole process itself. I believe that the Israeli authorities should re-examine these approaches, in this case and in others. Until they do so, the image of Israel and the legal system imposed on Palestinians in occupied territory will be gravely impaired.
Since 2002, 12,000 children have been imprisoned by Israeli jails, and at present 350 children are in Israeli jails. And most of these children were prosecuted for simply throwing stones against the occupiers in their town and village. And these children are subjected to torture, ill treatment and abuse. And in the report which I stated from the outset, the UNICEF report on children in the military detention, I'll just read the conclusion. And the conclusion is damning, absolutely damning of the Israeli prison system. It concludes, ill treatment of children who come in contact with military detention system appears to be widespread, systematic and institutionalised throughout the process from the moment of arrest until the child's prosecution and eventual eviction and sentencing. It is understood that no other country are children systematically tried by juvenile military courts. And Minister, this blatantly goes against the Convention of UN Rights for Child and international law. And Israel is the only country in the world that prosecutes children in military courts. So my question is, first of all, did you raise it with Benjamin Netanyahu when you were in there in January, and the case of Ahad Matimimi?
Just can I say, in relation to the Tamimi case, Ireland and other EU diplomats have attended the hearings in the military court as this case developed. An officer from Ireland's representative office in Ramallah was present at the court last Thursday when the sentencing took place. During my visit to the Middle East in January, I did raise the concerns about the detention of minors directly with Israeli authorities, including the issues of nighttime arrests and blindfolding. I recalled that the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child entails obligations to use detention only as a means of last resort and for the shortest appropriate time period in the case of minors. So, Deputy, I have raised this issue, this particular case, but the issue generally of how minors are treated within occupied territories. I think it is damaging to Israel's reputation internationally, and I think that is why I think it is in everybody's interest to change the approach here. And my approach towards this issue, as you know, is to be blunt and discuss with all sides the issues in relation to occupation, in relation to settlements, and I will continue to have that conversation both with the Israeli authorities and obviously with Palestinians as well.
One final minute, if you wish, Deputy.
Thanks, Chair. Minister, that sounds all well and good, but the question that most Irish people will ask: why do we treat Israel like a normal state, like any other state in the EU or across the world? Israel is an abnormal state. It's an apartheid state that detains not only children but hundreds and thousands of ordinary Palestinians fighting against occupation. The similarities between apartheid South Africa and apartheid Israel. We should not be trading whatsoever with the State of Israel. And we already, what most people actually don't know in this House, since 2005 we have imported €14.5 million worth of Israeli military goods in Ireland. Now, that military goods are being used by the Irish military plus by the Israeli military against Palestinians. Now, that all sounds good, what you've said. You should put your words where your mouth is and ban all Israeli military goods coming into Ireland.
Thank you very much for your cooperation.
To show your solidarity with the Palestinian people.
One final comment.
Deputy, goods that have been imported into Ireland that are linked with military equipment are not being used against Palestinians. They are being used by Irish peacekeepers to actually protect people in the Middle East, whether it's in southern Lebanon or whether it's in the Golan Heights.
Without interruption, the Taoiseach now, please.
Deputy.
Sorry, Deputy Kenny, you actually got more than your 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now, you're abusing your privilege. Please allow the Taoiseach to answer your question.
So, Deputy, while I share your concerns in relation to the treatment of Palestinian children, and I do, and we need to raise those questions directly and without fear or favour, what I don't accept, though, is the approach that you have, which is to simply try to shut out Israel. I think there is a context here which is different to many other parts of the world. Israel's history is a very complex one. There are genuine security issues and concerns for an Israeli government. Having said that, that does not excuse inappropriate behaviour and the totally inappropriate treatment of Palestinian children in occupied territory that Israel has responsibility for. So our approach is different here. My approach is through dialogue and politics. Your approach seems to be through protests and little else.